I'm Dylan Radigan. I've interviewed nearly every CEO and most world leaders during the past 25 years. And now I'm bootstrapping. I'm turning my attention to the new CEOs and the irrepressible entrepreneurs leading the next generation of innovation in the world. Welcome back to Tasty Live. I am Dylan Radigan. Time for another episode of Bootstrapping. Our guest, Courtney Wright, the company Gemini builds it. Courtney, it's a pleasure. I was reading about the business and it intriguing to me, just for so people understand, is you're talking really about creating custom physical experiences, environments, assets, however you want to say, whether it's a shopping window or in a store or whatever. Some of the clients, Kate Spade, Victoria's Secret, Club Monaco, from a previous business, and then I know that was sold and this is a new business. The most interesting thing in a world of social commerce, e-commerce, digital commerce, virtuality, how do you sell or measure the impact of the physicality? And how important is it? And how do you persuade people that are of a digital mindset that there's value in a custom physical experience to complement it?
Well, I mean, it's a great question, Dylan. I mean, our business is largely made up of lead gen is still happening digitally all the time. So our customers in the art market may be seeing things online on any of our social channels and interested. And then there's a whole distribution channel of gallery and other people that, kind of are the intermediary of those sales. But the reality is I was faced in my last business with being a middlewoman, and I wasn't fast enough. So becoming a manufacturer has allowed me to really put the pedal down on my business, because if someone says to me, hey, I want this, an institution or museum, I can walk in the back and prototype that for them same day.
Okay. And so whereas before you were saying you were customer facing, so you had the client list.
Yep.
And then you could book the order, but then you were stuck with a vendor on the fabrication side.
Exactly. And this company was one of my vendors, which is how I ended up buying it. But my other vendors were overseas and a lot in China. So you can just imagine that just the timeline and the, difficulty with communication, trying to get things sped up, because Victoria's Secret doesn't want to hear it's going to take a week to get you that. They want it tomorrow.
Or it's going to take a week for me to even find out whether that's possible.
Yeah, well, right. That definitely didn't happen. So luckily we had an opportunity to make a transaction, and it was a really great marriage and a great thing to happen. But I knew I wanted to own a series of manufacturing companies so that in this world of digital, everyone thinks, Amazon speed, I could react in Amazon speed, and it's turned out to be a really good thing.
And are you finding that the growth is in the art world or that the growth is in retail?
The growth is absolutely in the art and environments world. So what I mean by that is, people have lots of money. The billionaires are getting more and more money, and they're buying lots and lots of art. It's a number one asset class. So that we've got some very, very high end artists that deal with that category of people. And we're doing white glove delivery and installations daily, going to all the places where high net worths want artwork. Then they buy more houses and they need more artwork. The other part of our business is really museums and institutions. If you're a university and you're trying to appeal to a college student, you need the best display cases, the best memorabilia, your, admissions office to look like it's different than when they go to see the next place. That's a, $300,000-$400,000 sale that every institution's trying to make to a young 18-year-old. How do they differentiate? And we help them really put that environment together so it looks different than their next college visit.
Who drives the purchase? In other words, is it the artist themselves? Is it the gallery? Or is it the art? Like, who's the person who says, listen, we're doing this?
Well, that's a great question, because we're all influenced by so many things we see. So the artist has a very strong marketing, branding, social media presence, talking about what they're doing. But then a lot of the decisions and the actual pulling of the trigger may happen locally. Or, you and your wife, you go out, you go visit Miami, and you happen to stumble into, look at some artwork, and you see something and you say, hey, we need this back in Big Sky. So it's a lot of ways. I think that we're all so inundated with information that what the actual decision is kind of a combination of a lot of things that you have to do well.
And then how are you finding the actual fabrication side of it to be? Meaning, is 3D printing relevant? Where are we what's your perspective on manufacturing in the United States?
Well, that's the million dollar question. So we have a great workforce. We spend an inordinate amount of time on culture because these people are hard to acquire. They're skilled people. They have lots of choices. We also spend put all our money back into machines where we can. Everything we can automate, whether that's acrylic finishing or printing new equipment or 3D printing, like you said, we buy that equipment. And, at first, people are nervous about that, Dylan, because they look at those machines and they say, is that going to impact my opportunity? And we say, absolutely not. These things are complicated, sophisticated machines that need people to run them. So if you're going to learn and work with us to kind of grow this category and how we can produce more effectively, so we do have less overseas pressure, then you're going to be rewarded. So our approach is really get the talent, have really great culture, but then buy as many machines to always be working on efficiency.
And if you were to look, you talk about environments and you talked about the universities, does that also migrate into store windows on Michigan Avenue or on Fifth Avenue or on Rodeo Drive or on, all the...
Well, that is just not a part of the world that's happening right now. If you walk into, Tiffany or Hermes, they have a poster in the window. Now you go downstream and they don't even have a poster in the window. So, I think many of the retailers are trying to figure out how does that physical presence have to look? And they're not investing the kind of money that they are on digital and other, pop-up events, which is where they're spending a lot of money and we're doing some work. So I think that for us, it's really looking for all the channels where people are. Restaurants is a big category. Hotels is a big category for us because we're all looking for those experiences post-COVID. And you really got to dial up your efforts if you have a restaurant or a hotel today because there's so many choices.
So the physical environment, the capital is in restaurants, hotels, or universities, not on retail at any level.
It's just not something we're spending time on because there's just no money there that, the retailers, I think they're all trying to figure out, every day we get another news flash of Bed Bath & Beyond kind of stories. And that had a lot under the covers. But, people are contracting their physical stores until they know, hey, what goes with a clothing store? Is it clothing store and nails, clothing store and restaurants? They've got to find a way to get people back to those stores. And I think just decor is not enough. So they're really sort of on pause. And once they come back, we'd be a natural fit to manufacture that stuff. But right now we're sort of on the sidelines.
But on the other hand, it sounds like the art world is robust for you.
Absolutely booming. I think people spend more time at home. These artists that are good and good marketers, they have a lot of events. So they'll get out and speak to people. They're very tied to charities. And I think, philanthropy is something people can always wrap their head around. So they're driving their audience to just be frequent, consumers. Then you look at the fact that most people in this sort of place that we're playing have two homes. Now that's, more artwork that they can have. So it's really been for us a really great way to expand our distribution nationally because we're doing that all over. Just because we're manufacturing in Chicago, we're going to Miami and New York and Big Sky every single week. And then it also gets us into other things because now you're talking to the CEO of all the companies that you ultimately want to work for as you're delivering their products.
Meaning that it's a hotel owner or whatever it is, and they say, well, why don't we do something like this in the hotel?
In the hotel?
Yeah. Is there a specific? Do you have a view on? I won't call it fashion, but I guess design. In other words, do you feel like you are an indication of where the design world is going? Based on what you're, I'm seeing the stripes, the abstract behind you, but it could, there's so many expressions of design. I'm curious whether one particular type of design is more popular than another in any meaningful way at this moment.
I always watch that very carefully. I come from a very big design family. And I think that creativity is something that we really look to press the button on. So if somebody asks us for our opinion, we have one. We have a whole creative department. We can render everything onto the wall so you can see, how things look. But what I see is that national presence on some of these artists is very important with a local touch. So I see one of our artists making a lot of local content. He's a photographer. He'll go out and create shoots in New York City that would appeal to almost anybody that was a buyer in New York City. Now, they're not going to buy the stuff that he did that was in Montana or Texas, but I do feel that that localization, which is, you know, kind of a playbook from the 80s, is really back. And I'm seeing it with multiple of the artists and certainly even the institutions. You have to sort of make sure your home base is really feels like it's relevant. So that's a trend I'm seeing over and over again in fashion and lots of the things I follow.
Mm-hmm. And then if you were to look at growth markets for you outside of art and, you know, and event spaces, is there an obvious one?
So I think that the obvious thing that we're trying to push the pedal on, and we'll definitely acquire some companies, is the white glove delivery and installation. So what I learned through the pandemic is that, you know, you can sell anything, but that the last day that that's delivered is really your impression of who you purchased it from. So the people that get off the truck, how they look, how they're dressed, are they clean? Are they friendly? Do they install your piece and leave a mess? I mean, just that whole experience is the last thing you actually remember. So we started deploying what had been a fleet of trucks that this company had out to be installers nationwide. Now, what are they installing? Artwork, pedestals, casework, different things, because we really felt like if that last experience is awesome, it will be a good memory and they'll come back. And it seems like that's been a positive strategy. So we're now looking actively to buy some smaller companies in the markets that we're going to a lot, so we can have feet on the ground in places around the country and we're not flying and driving people there to do the installs.
Got it. Courtney, thank you so much for the time today. Congratulations on the success.
Dylan, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, Courtney, right? Gemini builds it. I am Dylan Radigan. You are watching Bootstrapping. More Tasty Live right after this.